Hi, I'm Mick, and welcome back to It's a Matter of Opinion. In this segment, I'm going to be discussing some basic standard rules that a lot of paranormal investigators and or ghost hunters use for their team members. 1. Always make sure that you and your team always conduct yourselves in a professional manner. I think that's pretty basic. 4. Members should not attend any meeting or participate in any investigation while under the influence of drugs and or alcohol. This can have an adverse effect during investigations, that's no doubt. And that includes smoking cigarettes as well. Always make sure also that you turn your cell phones off during an investigation so there's no interference with that as well. The next one is respect the posted property and always ask permission of the owner. This has an adverse effect for a lot of people because if they go out there and they just decide to go into a property and just jump the fence without asking the owner for permission to investigate something, you could very well end up in jail. So you want to make sure that you take care and always make sure you get permission. Show reverence and respect when it comes to cemeteries and historical sites. And make sure there's no running, horseplay, etc. No verbal profanities. You know, use a little class there when you're doing an investigation. Don't use any foul language. Another one of the big ones is to never investigate alone. A lot of people tend to forget and disregard this whole completely because if they're not involved with a team and they're just starting out and they can't seem to find anybody and they're interested in becoming a paranormal investigator, what they'll do is they'll go out to a property and they'll take that initiative on their own and go out there and investigate. And if they happen to get hurt or something, there's no way of getting in contact with anybody, an ambulance or a police department or anything like that. If something happens to them or something along within that property, there's no way of contacting anyone. You know, and it's for your own safety and for others as well, to make sure you cover your own back in case something does happen. Whether it's a health issue arises during a team mate, during investigation, make sure that you have the appropriate equipment, and that includes a first aid kit and any other necessities, batteries, flashlights. Of course, you're going to be using that during investigation as well anyway. Let's see here. Now I don't know if how a lot of teams out there feel about pertinent information when it comes to collecting audios and photos and video, whether they don't want to divulge any of that information to other team players or other teams out there. Me personally, I wouldn't divulge that information because a lot of times when you're going to do an investigation, if you decide to go with other members of another team, you want to make sure that you cover your own ground. And unless you have that agreement amongst yourselves, that I don't know if you want to take chances if you're trying to gain some credibility that you found a certain particular audio or a picture or a video clip and you're looking to gain the credit for that. A lot of times teams out there won't want to share their information with other teams. So that's just something to keep in mind, you know. The information that you do happen to collect, you should amply share that with the client as well. And when you're sharing that information with the clients, you also want to have them sign a release document, which enables you to, if you could use that found information, if the client says yay or nay, if they say it's okay for you to divulge that information for purposes of posting it on a website or other social networks, then that's up to the client if they decide to let you do so or not. But you have to respect their wishes because it is within their property and it is within their rights to not let you do that. So you got to make sure that you respect those wishes. But for the most part, those are pretty much the basic rules. Like I said, during investigations, you want to make sure that you don't use any profanity. You want to make sure that you don't have any fellow teammates that are under the influence. You want to make sure that you don't, if you have any communication equipment such as cell phones, you want to make sure that they're turned off so that you're getting no interference from outside sources during an investigation, that is. Only in the case of emergencies that you go to another area to contact. If somebody gets hurt on the property during an investigation, then you use the cell phone. If anybody has any questions, feel free to respond to this segment, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And in the future segments, I'll be creating some videos in reference to documentation, things that a lot of teams out there use during investigation. Prior to investigation, that's the client form, the permission form for the client, so they can sign it over to the team members. The equipment documentation, those are separate forms, which I'll get into later on as to what those entail. Okay? So until next time, thank you for joining me on Cincinnati.